Hello, everyone. We're back again, and Alejandro is kindly going over Facebook, also known as Meta. And I know most people probably know what this social media company is about, but I haven't delved into their finances. So take it away, Alejandro, with what you're about to share with us today.
Hello, Michelle. Hello, everybody. Again, this is a pleasure. I really enjoy doing this with these days. I have a daughter, and doing this is what I enjoy the most doing. So let's start with Facebook. What is Facebook? I mean, as Michelle said, we all know. I mean, it's a social media platform, and we are part of it somehow. I mean, I more than I don't know 70% in the people in the world we could say is part of Facebook. And it is a very interesting company because it has a lot of debate between different stuff. Like some people like it, some people don't. So it is a definitely interesting company. We're going to see the numbers and talk several points that can help you understand it more and see if you want to invest in it or maybe it's too late. So what they do is a social media and social networking service that helps people connect and share through mobile devices, personal computer, virtual reality headsets, and wearables. This is very interesting because Facebook is been changing how they get the income, because most of the time before they will get the advertising through the personal computers, but with more and more people just switching to spend the time on their phone, they have to transition a little. So now they getting some new products or reels and others to get you to um, spend time with them. And that the problem with this is that even though most people, if you compare computer to phone, they spend more time on the phone, that computer part was way more profitable. So their sales being keep growing, but their profitability is going down. So at this moment, the sales been growing faster than what the profitability is going down. So it's good. But to be able to predict, I mean, you have to get to a conclusion of how this is going to play out in the long term. So as I say, they have two segments, family of apps and reality labs. Currently, they get pretty much all their revenue from advertising, which is, yeah, basically where they make money off. So like a lot of people, I remember like when I started using Facebook, a lot of people will question themselves, oh, how is Facebook making money? I mean, I get all this for free, but like I heard somebody said, when they're not making money, you might be the product. So this is something to think about. Well, the family of apps, Facebook, I use Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp. I honestly use all of them. How about you, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, I use some more than others, but I kind of do some of the minimum, um, like with some of them, different friends and family use some of them, so it's helpful to stay connected in that way with people who use the different apps. So yeah, in some way, I still have access to all of those.
Yeah, and as we said before, I mean, some people think it's dangerous for their kids. They spend too much time. It's addictive. But at the same time, I mean, there's several interviews I heard about pointing out that the human is always trying to default to something where they are kind of relaxed and losing time. So before it was other things. Now it might be Facebook where you scroll and you lose a lot of time. But also there's a lot of channels, for example, on Instagram that you can follow where you learn a lot of stuff. So, I mean, for example, my wife learns a lot about nutrition on Instagram. So she spends a quite bit of time on Instagram, but she's learning. So it really depends how you see it. I don't think there's a definite conclusion. So, I mean, it's super interesting that part.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like you have to be aware, there's always some risks. Like there's some predatory people out there who are trying to sell you things, or sometimes like you get spam bots or spammers who like they take other people's identities and then they try to pretend like, oh, buy this crypto or something like that. So you have to watch out for those. And like, of course, there's always been somewhat of a debate with how social media as a whole has had somewhat negative mental health effects, especially for teenagers and young girls. So if we're aware about those things and can try to educate the young people about how, just because, your friend is getting all these likes, or, they're getting a lot of attention because their other friends are, putting peer pressure about social media stuff, to take a step back and not be so influenced, because there's more to life than just social media. So sometimes people can take it a little too seriously. They make it too much of their life. And so, like, that would be an opportunity to educate young people about how, even though you're spending a lot of time on there, you don't have to let it dictate what your life is about. You can just be like, okay, that's there, but you don't have to like crave the likes, because that's happened to some people. Like, you're like, oh, I put up a post or a video and nobody liked it, and then you can feel sad. But if people, can have other outlets that are also important, then they won't care so much if somebody liked their video or not.
Yeah, that is a great point. But as I said before, something that comes to my mind, like for example, when I was little, a teenager maybe, I would spend a lot of time playing video games, which again, they're not that good. So I mean, a lot of the people have shifted to this, like spending time on Facebook and scrolling and looking at stuff. But again, as you said, I mean, it really depends on what mindset you have, and if you're getting something out of it or not. And I guess, as you said, for teenagers, there has to be a lot of control for the part of their parents and all these type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So as long as, like, parents and kids are aware, like they work together to figure out what makes sense for the family. Like, everybody's family will be different. So, it's all on a case by case basis.
Yeah, absolutely. So reality labs. So most of the products in this segment are not in the market yet. They include artificial intelligence products for the future. Current products offer, like the current products offerings at the moment, are MetaQuest virtual and software content in the MetaQuest store. They enable some social experiences such as gaming, fitness, and entertainment. I honestly haven't tried any of these. I've seen them at the stores. I think I saw them at Costco, if I'm not mistaken. Have you tried them?
No, I've heard about them, but I haven't tried it myself. And I mean, it still seems a little bit early on. Like, I remember when um, Mark Zuckerberg was trying to talk about some of the metaverse stuff, and you saw some previews of like the people in the metaverse that only had the top half of their body, like an avatar, but they didn't have legs. It was kind of like funny. So I think, they're trying to figure out, but I think they were trying to place a lot more emphasis on the metaverse for a while, and then I think because they were having a lot of losses, that made the stock price go down for a while, and then they kind of dialed back some of that and focused a little bit more on the core business, and the stock started recovering. But have you noticed that too? There was a little bit of that trend before.
Yeah, so absolutely. So what, as you said, I'm gonna talk a little about this before, but after before. So yeah, let me go to the next slide and I talk a little about this. So I mean, this is several points. For example, what Mark Zuckerberg, as we always know from Buffett's teachings, I mean, when you look into a business, you look at your price, you look at your business, like your business economics, and you look at the people that are managing. So these three things are very, very important. Mark Zuckerberg, I listened to several calls, like conference calls for this. I listened to Let Friedman podcast where he interviews him. And when you hear him talk, I mean, he's like very into the company. So again, Buffett always says, I cannot promise results, but I can promise that you're gonna get the same luck as me. So I feel that way when if I invest in Facebook, just because I feel like Mark Zuckerberg is really putting his life into this. But again, that doesn't mean, I mean, it is a good thing, but obviously it doesn't mean it's going to guarantee results. From what I heard him talk, I mean, he's really into this metaverse and AI stuff, which, as we're going to see later on, the numbers are not really telling the story. But again, he has this always how this playbook, how he constructs all the network and then he monetizes that. That is very risky, I feel, because he can be right. I feel he thinks for example, his smart glasses are going to replace the phone. I mean, he has a deal with Ray-Ban these days. So there's good things and bad things. And again, like investing is that is probably why it's so interesting, is like you have to get to your own conclusions, but you have to put the good points and the bad points about him being so into the metaverse and AI and just putting so much capital. And as I just said, Reality Labs have a lot of expectations, but they have big losses. So basically, even though what you just mentioned, yeah, the stock has been going up again, the losses keep compounding. I mean, I think they're gonna lose. I think they lost around like close to 15 billion here. And again, this can be an investment, research and development. With time, it will pay. But these type of investments are very, very tough to predict, and I don't like that type of thing when you have to predict, like basically guessing. But at the other side, the family of apps, even though like a lot of people think they lost power, they keep growing in numbers. So as I said before, they keep growing their ads. I mean, they are losing profitability per ad, but they are growing in numbers. I mean, obviously his long-term thinking. Obviously, if he didn't think this was not going to work, I mean, he won't be doing it, because in the short term, you listen to him and he's always thinking really long-term, Buffett-wise, but again, that doesn't mean it's going to be right. They reduced the high count during the last couple of years, making the company more efficient. One of the conference call, he said like he switched people from other places to work on AI and the meta, and just like really focus more on the product. I think that helped the stock pick up. And I said Facebook and Amazon capital allocation. This is super interesting. And again, it's difficult to get to a conclusion, but Facebook, as we see, I mean, they put in so much capital into this bet. So if they are wrong, it's going to be very bad. If they are right, I mean, it's going to be obviously amazing. Different from Amazon, that they're more like, there's a book called Lean Startup, and that's how I think Amazon will allocate their capital. Like AWS was a little like Mickey Mouse play, and it came out to what it is today. In the other side, as I said, Facebook is just like meta, and he believes that. And I mean, again, is he going to be right? What do you think, Michelle?
Well, he also has a tall order of having to convince people to do this. Like with cloud is somewhat safer and a little bit more reliable than just having, the old way with hard drives and so on. So like there's a good business case for cloud offerings from Amazon and from Microsoft. But when it comes to Meta, like, what's a little challenging to me with the metaverse is like Mark Zuckerberg is trying to make it seem like it's going to be fun and so cool to spend time with your friends in this online virtual place. But like, you could already do some of that with gaming or with these other apps, but you can't replace, say, having a pizza or a drink with someone on the metaverse. Like, how would you do that? You're just going to sit in your room by yourself with your pizza and be like, eating virtual pizza with someone, but you're having real pizza in your real life. So it's to me a little bit confusing, because I would rather spend the time in person with someone that is meaningful to me. So to me, it's a little bit of a harder sell to convince me like I should stay digital. Like I'm already on the computer and all these devices in my everyday life with work and my personal life, and then if he's trying to say spend even more time online in this metaverse, it's to me it's like a little bit of a stretch to me at this time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's a difficult play, and as you said, I've been trying to cut off the most time I can, obviously because of my daughter, but because I just don't feel like sometimes I'm progressing as a human when I'm spend like time scrolling, and it's just difficult to say, oh, I'm just going to do 20 minutes, because I mean, you say 20 minutes and you go there forever. So regulation, threat or opportunity. I feel like every time we talk about regulation with a company, we see as a threat. But the other day I was listening to Terry Smith, this UK guy that they call the Warren Buffett of UK, and he said something really interesting, and he was talking about that tobacco business, and is that like when there's so much regulation, sometimes it just protects you from like new competition coming in, you know, because I mean it's so tough. I mean, you have to regulate to start a business. I mean, it's so tough to get into that you just um, keep getting people and just being protected by regulation. So I mean, I never saw it like that, but as we always say, I mean, the more you read, the more you see interviews, the more you learn, and you just start getting this warehouse of information in your mind, as Buffett always says, and it just makes you a better investor. Which I mean, again, it sounds logical when you say I feel, but
Mhm.
I mean, it was a very, very open eye to me.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, and we can see some of that also playing out with like more regulations against, say, TikToks. Like some of the government areas were saying like you can't have TikTok on a government phone, for example, because of the national security threat. So in a way, in some ways, like the government is incentivized to protect more American media and these networking apps. So there's more distrust with something like TikTok, which is not American. So it's interesting how that is being more of an opportunity for Facebook Meta to maybe secure more market share.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, here, the Meta and the Microsoft partnership on AI. I mean, they just made a little, I mean, not a little, I mean, they just made a partnership. Who's going to benefit? I'm not 100% sure, but obviously, I mean, they both have to benefit. But obviously, I mean, if these two guys start doing things together, I mean, they can get very, very powerful. And as we talked the other day, Microsoft also made a partnership with NVIDIA, which is another monster. So I mean, these guys are going to it and just, but again, this has regulations, so it's not like they just become a huge monopoly. I mean, they do have regulations. So I mean, this is good, and it makes them stronger sometimes if it's the right move. So the digital advertising graph by Statista. I mean, again, this is predicting 2 years ahead, but as we see, Meta is being going down as well as Google, and Amazon is growing. So I mean, this type of graph can help you maybe understand what Mr. Zuckerberg is looking for the future. So maybe he's just doing it, and most of us don't really understand, and he's really seeing the big picture. But I mean, from what I mean, I just don't think he has the how you say, the marble ball like Buffett says. But again, I mean, he can be right, and he can be a hero, or he can mess up. But this is a very, very interesting graph to look, because and just because they lose market share doesn't mean they're losing profit, they're losing net income or total profit, because I mean the market has been growing. So I
Hmm.
mean, I think it will be, I should have added maybe a graph where the market is growing to like really compare, because yeah, they've been going down in market share, but the market has been growing faster. So I mean, it's not like they are becoming less profitable at the moment. But
Right.
this is the monthly active users. It's a little blurry. This comes from the annual report. But I mean, as we can see here, I mean, it just keeps growing. And in the last conference call, they hit more than 3.5 billion people. This is at the end of 2022. So I mean, they just keep growing. And again, when you get someone on your network, I mean, you can just get them more money somehow. I mean, for example, something that I always had in question in my mind, it was like how they make money on WhatsApp. And now that is one of the big revenue. Like they are growing big on WhatsApp with company plans and advertising through there. They're making some groups. I mean, obviously this is generating money for them. So, I mean, again, if they get you in one of their platforms, they are going to find a way to get you to spend money. And obviously it's a great distribution channel for their glasses and all this. But again, it's just things to think about as an investor. So the acquisitions, I mean, Instagram on 2012 for 1 billion. I mean, it's probably one of the most amazing acquisition in history. I mean, I couldn't tell because I haven't ever find where they divide the income per app. But I mean, I'm sure Instagram is worth so much money these days. WhatsApp, as I just said before, I mean, it was 20 times more, but now is making them a lot of money. Oculus, which is the VR company, and Onavo. So again, these were some of the more important acquisitions that latest years, as we see, different from Microsoft the other day. I mean, they don't spend as much money acquiring, so I guess this makes it more predictable. But again, you have to analyze company by company, and just by reading and analyzing and watching these videos and looking at other people's videos, the more information you get, the better you get at being able to project. And as Buffett says, I mean, there's companies that are just too hard to predict. So a little of the balance sheet, accounts receivable, the property, plant and equipment. I mean, they've been growing it, as we can see, and that is because of the metaverse and all. I mean, they investing big in this, so the return on capital is lowering, but again, it's something Mr. Zuckerberg believes in, and they feel it is the way to go. It's pretty interesting. I mean, they at the moment they basically don't carry inventory. I mean, if they get big into glasses and all that, I mean, they are going to raise the inventory. So I mean, the business is going to vary. Who knows how it's going to play? Who knows how profitable those things can be? But again, I feel he's trying to. I think he has. I mean, I won't say hate, but I mean, he has a lot of. Oh yeah, maybe hate towards Apple, because I mean, the privacy thing that they did to them is making them less profitable, and I think he's going against them, because in one of the conference call he said, well, we are not just bringing some type of glasses, we are bringing something new. Every time we get something out is because it's something new. Not like, he said, not like other companies that basically just improved the camera a couple of pixels and just came out with something else. But again, to me, Apple, and I don't know if Mr. Zuckerberg is conscious of this, has that love from their people. I mean, the people that have Apple, I mean, it's not only about the technical stuff of the phone or computer. It's about what Jobs built through the years, and it's being rebel, I don't know, there's a connection that I don't think people get with Facebook. What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, people don't have the same warm and fuzzy feeling about Facebook because they they treat it like a little bit like a necessary evil. Like if you want to talk to your friends or get information from the social media, it's like sure it's there and it's free, but it does like can be a time suck, and like the reputation of Mark Zuckerberg is not as positive as say like some of the people out of Apple. So it's a little bit touchy. And yeah, like if Zuckerberg can convince people to wear like big goggles, like right now, I think I might have put one on just to put it on, but like it feels heavy, and it like it's hard to see that people would want to wear it. Like if they can make something like what Google Glass tried making a long time ago, like some hologram type thing, where it's like in Star Wars where you put on the glasses and you see like a little holographic in the eye. Like that sounds cool. And if that's the next level, that basically having like a phone in your eyeglasses, but it's not too heavy, maybe that could be really cool. But it seems like we're still kind of far away from that type of efficiency. And right now it's these big chunky goggles that just are really heavy, and they say it's not recommended for children 10 and under to wear these things. So like for some people it's not even healthy, like it can give you a neck strain. So stuff like that is like, maybe there's potential there, but it will take a while until that kind of technology can be mass adopted.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's where they aiming to, just basically like for all the billions of people that wear glasses, just basically replacing that, and that will replace the phone and the Apple Watch, and that's where they aiming to. But again, as you said, it is a thing of adoption. I mean, yeah, maybe it's easier, but that doesn't mean people are just gonna like it. So I mean, I, I think I get his vision, but I don't think it's that easy to predict. And again, the problem, as we're gonna see later on, is that numbers are not like telling that it is that way. So right here, I mean, uh, we saw 2020 keep growing. They came down on 2022, but the worst part is, I mean, the net income, how they came down, and that's when the stock got affected. And again, it came so low that even if you were totally, I mean, if anybody was totally against the reality labs, it was such a good opportunity that I think we missed because it was below 100, and that stock is almost at 350 now. So
Yeah.
that's why, yeah, I insist on always just studying and just keep the companies you think they're strong in your mind. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for people who believe in Facebook and like that as an investment, they should have jumped on that opportunity when they saw it go so low. Like I wasn't keeping track of Facebook, so to me, it didn't matter to me if the stock price went low. But if there's someone who they like the vision, they believe in this company, they would kick themselves if they didn't invest. So yeah, like to your point, it would have for the people who understand Facebook as a business model, they should have invested because that was the best opportunity in 2022.
100%. And here I have a funny story, which again is lessons that I learned. And I did have a pretty sizable position for my portfolio on Facebook. And I just saw how cheap it was. And I mean, I could see everything, but again, when you trust so much in somebody, it can make you make mistakes. And Lilu sold that position, and that messed up me. That definitely messed me up because he had this big position. He even bought some more like the quarter before, but then he sold. And as soon as he sold, he just messed up my position. And unfortunately, I follow him like a fish and just
Oh,
made a mistake. But again, this is just, as Buffett always says, and Charlie used to always say, just a learning process that we just got to keep going. And yeah, I mean, I mean, I did lose, I guess, a good amount of money for my portfolio, but again, I learned that, yeah, you have to follow the people, but I mean, you have to be the last person to take the decision because that was a mistake by my part.
well, I mean, it's that's a good lesson to learn. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, like you said, we should know what some of these super investors are doing, but we shouldn't just do exactly what they do because they could be buying and selling for different reasons than we might. And maybe Li Lu had totally different reasons why he sold. Maybe he thought it was still a good investment, but he saw something else that was more interesting. So we never know why they sell, but yeah, it's important to be aware of that.
Absolutely. Right here, a little the cash flow. I mean, we can just see how they keep purchasing property, plant, and equipment in the last few years, investing in metaverse and AI. And in 2021, they purchased some shares. It's funny because the stock was much cheaper in 2022, but I guess with the metaverse, and this was the first year they came with a loan. So it's the first time you see in their balance sheet a long-term debt. So I mean, they were focusing that, and maybe they lost the opportunity of rebuying more of a great company. But again, it's easy to see it looking backwards. But at the moment, maybe they thought it. I mean, obviously they thought it was the right move. So by segment and geography, a little bit. I mean, advertising and other revenue, as we see here, the reality labs. I mean, they're not really growing. If you see, I mean, this is pretty crazy. And now, I think in the next slide, I'm going to show you something more scary. And this was the quarter. Look at reality labs. I mean, they're not only growing, I mean, they almost sold half of it. So I
Yeah,
mean, they're putting so much energy, so much capital, and just starting. I mean, they came down. Maybe I understand that, like when they came out, I mean, it was something like news, so people get excited, but still, I mean, with the amount of money they're investing, I mean, the return is just so low. But again, I mean, I guess if you build a network of something and you just giving free stuff, and then they just get this great product, I mean, maybe it's right.
well,
In Go
yeah.
ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, like sometimes it's showing that just because you build it doesn't mean they will come.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think a little about, I think Carvana, I think they were stock like very hot. They start building all this infrastructure, but I mean, the demand wasn't there. So I mean, you can build all the infrastructure, but if that demand is not there, I mean, you're gonna lose money. And I do like his conviction. I do like his commitment, obviously. But I mean, I'm again, who am I to judge Mark Zuckerberg? But uh, me as an investor, I just think it just makes me doubt a lot now. Even though, like at the price that it was just 1 year ago, I mean, he could be the wrong he wanted to be, but still, it was a great investment.
Yeah, I mean, and this tells the story of how they're focusing back on the core business of advertising. So they like what that shows to me is like he's pivoting from reality labs and focusing more on advertising.
Yeah, he is, but still, I mean, when you listen to him on the conference call, he's like, he talks so much about how he still believes in all this stuff, and again, he plans on integrating this with his advertising, because obviously, if if you get his glasses, for example, obviously I mean, I don't know, these days the feature on your iPhone is the Apple, the App Store. Now, if you get the glasses and let's say you use it as a phone, I mean, it probably will be Instagram, Facebook, and I don't know, all his platforms. So, I mean, who knows? Very, very interesting. But at these prices, I mean, with this unpredictability and he's wanting to spend so much money, I don't know, it's a little difficult. So the lessons to me, keep reading about companies, is you never know when a buying opportunity will come again. I missed this one. Invest carefully in new ventures in the future is tough to predict. I feel Mr. Zuckerberg is investing very, very hard on this, and it's very unpredictable. Even he says that it's unpredictable. Just a reminder, return on tangible asset is and will always be king. I mean, Buffett is very, very strong into this result. I mean, the return on capital, the amount you can reinvest. And long-term thinking is good, but does not guarantee results, because we always, I mean, if we assume that because Mr. Zuckerberg is looking long-term, he's right. And again, he's committed, long-term thinking, all great, but that doesn't mean he's gonna be successful. So that's what I had for you, Michelle.
Well, thank you so much, Alejandro. And yeah, these are great lessons that you shared. And another one that comes to mind is like focus on what the business's core strength is. Like it's a big competitive advantage what they've already established. So it makes sense that they are now trying to monetize WhatsApp more because that's one of their core businesses. It like so getting more revenue through that is very smart. And whereas like it's sort of like a long shot bet, kind of like how Google has some long shots that they also make some investments in. But I think Google pulls back sooner on some of their long shots. Like if they see some long shot not really working, they don't continue to just put so much into it. But here it seems like even though metaverse is still sort of a long shot, he's putting way more. And maybe it will pay off because like we talked about with metaverse and gaming, maybe and AI, maybe there's a way to blend all those things, and maybe his vision for the metaverse can become a reality in esports, like e-gaming, and then that could be where it really takes off. Like we think like, oh, normal day to day, maybe it's a little boring, but if it's made with a game, maybe that makes it really cool. So, you know, you never know. He might have to pivot a little bit instead of just convincing us to do normal stuff in the metaverse. Maybe if you make it a game, it makes it the next level of gaming. So I guess we'll see. So, like you said, you know, keep learning about companies and keep it on your radar so that if there's an investment opportunity, you can take advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to conclude, I mean, this reminds me of that article wrote by Buffett of how the car company changed the world, the airplane industry changed the world, but none of them were great investments. So yeah, AI metaverse is probably the future, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a great investment. So
Yeah,
be
great.
careful with that.
Yeah, and so with that, thank you so much again, Alejandro. This is great. And I think we're all better investors because you helped teach us about this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye-bye.